Hey guys, Marvin here with Driven by Graphics. I've had some requests to do a video on how to print and cut, basically to laminate on my Roland. And I've had a job here that I need to work on and do exactly that. So I figured I'd just record a video and show the process that I use. I would say there's probably a couple different ways to go about doing it. Some of the steps are obviously required, but I'll go through and show how I do it. So all four of these files here at the bottom, not yet ripped, are ones that I need to print and laminate, but for sake of video, basically I put together this sheet. I need to get 100 of those, so I went ahead and gang kind of all these up onto a sheet that's 11 inch by 13 and 3/4, and it come out to a little over 100 of them on each of these pages. This one's slightly different. One of the things I figured I'd show here within the video, if you're not already aware. So if I were to just print, let me just select one of these. Just select one of these I'm going to print this on a 30-inch media. It gives me a little over 28 inches, but if I were to just print the one of these, how it fits here, for example, it's going to take up that the extra space, right? It would be wasted vinyl. And so one way, if you're not already familiar, that you can basically put these together, you can nest these two files or multiple files together. And so basically I just shift click, highlight both of them and click the nest function. And that joins both of those together to be printed together in one print job. And so let me change this back. I don't actually have the printer on at the moment. The sub power is not powered on, so I can't cue the width right at the moment. But this put them side by side. Like I said, I'll have a little bit more than this, so this is probably fine. I'm gonna try to do, let's see if I do a 1/4 inch in between. Yeah, that works out. It just gives me a little bit more room there to actually cut these apart. So one thing I do on these, you can see with the sheets, this gray outline may look black on the screen, I'm not sure, but either way, basically I just print an actual rectangle there that gives me some trim lines to trim those down into sheets. And so that was one thing that I showed somebody last week that I do. And then let me zoom in a little more and you can see the little marching ants there. And so those will all be cut out. But let's go through the menus here and I'll show you kind of what I do within VersaWorks itself. So I have both the jobs here, showed how to nest those together. If I had it print itself actually powered on, I would go ahead and get my media width. Let me go do that because some of the other, no, I think I should be good. I was going to say some of the other options may be things that I would do as well, but I think I'm good to go on everything. So within this print queue A, by default, when a load job's in, it loads to the standard quality. On this job, within the media types, I am printing on glossy calendar vinyl. I'm going to change this over to high quality. I just want a little finer resolution. And within the halftone, I'm going to change this to air diffusion and bicubic. And you can kind of Google those if you want. Ultimately, both these provide slightly higher quality print. It does supposedly, quote unquote, from Roland take a little more processing on the rip side, so it may take a little more time there, but it's nothing that I've had any sort of issue or impacts with, so I do those pretty often, pretty much on every print job. I go for quality and sacrifice a little bit on time, I suppose. Nothing really on the next two. I don't do any color adjustments, nothing here. Those are not spot colors. They're basically, I was emailed over these actual files. They were PNGs, and then I just added the cut line to it. Now here on the mark page, this is something that you will definitely want to do if you're going to print and laminate and then need to cut separate. So you want to add in these crop marks, and I'm doing it for the entire area, and that'll basically give 4 marks, one in each corner. And then there'll be a little rectangle that's printed at the very front as well to indicate the front right corner. But that's one of the big things with print and cut jobs is to turn on your crop marks. And then the other thing I always do is use this custom settings here for page space. And what this does, ultimately I'm going to choose 90 millimeters here. And on the back end of the job, basically it's going to add an additional 90 millimeters and then I'll do my sheet cut, and it'll effectively basically kind of leave a bit of an extra tail on the end, because your printer does have a rear sensor on it, right? So unless you go through, some people will cover that up and then not have to obviously print have as much. But if you don't cover it, the 90mm page space seems to work perfectly for me. Adds a little bit more on the tail, obviously ends up being waste, but it allows it to hit that rear sensor. Doesn't throw any sort of errors or anything of that nature. But so custom settings, page space, 90mm. The other thing here, obviously, I'm not going to print and cut because I need to laminate. So all I needed to do right now is print. And so it disables all my cut settings. And then I'm not going to mess with any of these other ones. So those are the big ones, is the crop marks, obviously, the page space, 90mm, and then print only. And with that, I'm just going to click OK. I'm going to allow this to rip right now. I'm going to go ahead and go turn on the power. You see it's secondary power off. I'm going to turn on the power, load my vinyl in, and I'll probably cut to a time lapse of it actually printing, because I know you don't want to sit there and watch the whole print. That's, I don't know what that said a minute ago, 12 or so minutes. And when I edit this, I'll splice it all back together and get you guys up to speed. So be back momentarily. All right, so now I've got my print done. I brought it over here to my kind of production table area where I've got my cold laminator set up, and I'm basically going to measure out for the laminate for this. And that's one thing that can vary a little bit depending on how the process ultimately, works for you. Like I said, I'm using a cold laminator. Some people may have an automatic, but this is what I've got set up, and I'll just show you how I go through and do it. So I've got a longer ruler here for some of the longer jobs. I pretty much try to measure about an inch past. If you notice, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but this front edge here, this is the front edge of my print. I've got the rectangle here that printed, indicating the front edge, obviously, and I try to measure an inch past this back dot to make sure I've got coverage of laminate past the print, so that obviously the laminate will just reach past that. And then I end up going about an inch and a half past this front edge as well as a leading edge. There's different ways to do this. This is just what I figured out works best for me. So I'm gonna end up cutting that about 17.5 inches and we'll go from there. So let me set this out of the way. Let me set it over here for now. And I've got a variety of different vinyls, a variety of different laminates, and for this particular job, 17.5. Let me mark this real quick. This laminate here does not have any markings on the back at all. This is 17.5. And the only kind of issue with that, with not having the marking on the back and doing it this way with the cold laminator, if you've got an automatic, you kind of pull it into the machine, it comes right off the reel and loads pretty well straight. In this case, the way I'm doing it, I'm trying to cut it off of here and just use this piece specific for this job. And so one of the things I need to do is cut this pretty straight. And so I've ended up getting myself a square to mark this. And there's other laminates I have here that have markings on the back, and if that's the case, I just cut right along the grid on them. But this, like I said, does not, so I'm just gonna make a little mark here to give myself a line there. Now I could just use the straight edge and my Olfa knife, retractable razor, whatever. In this case, I like using this guy, just nice and quick. I know it's a straight cut. Set this aside. Roll this back up. I figure out what I did with my These are pretty neat. I use these on a lot of my vinyls too. It's just a Velcro strap. I got this off of Amazon. On some of them I just use tape. If it's a lot of them are reverse rolled, where I can tape on the back, but this is not. So I'm just going to load this straight into the cold laminator. And this is why I cut that about 1.5 inches on the leading edge, is because I just rolled that in. I fed a little bit in there. 1.5 inches may be excessive, but again, that's just what I figured works for me. Now, one of the things with the cold laminator is the tension on these wheels. And I know with the setup here, I apologize that I cut myself off, but obviously you don't really care so much about seeing me. Seeing the equipment and all is much more important, as long as I can explain it. So one of the things, you know, this is just freely spinning. I get to where it just made a little bit of tension, and then I'm going to do like another, I don't know, quarter turn until just from my hand I can feel that I can't really spin it any more freely without, you know, exerting some force on it, you know, quite a bit. So it's really just a feel for me that kind of once it makes contact, I do maybe 15 to 30 degrees, just a little bit more, you know, quarter turn, if you will, you know, something like that, and just try to get them about the same. It's pretty light in terms of the tension there, though. If you add too much there, you will have issues with your laminate. It'll bunch up and just do different things where it will not laminate smooth or well for you. So I go ahead and just peel all of mine back here. And again, different ways to go about laminating stuff. Some people will feed it in, do the front edge, peel it back. This is just what I found works best, like I said, for me. Ultimately, you just want to get that laminate on top and have it applied well to your print. So now I'm just going to kind of feed this in here and get it about as straight as I can. So I'm looking at right now the kind of front edge and just how it is aligning with the roller itself, and then I'll kind of check the edges as well, and just trying to look at the edge of the vinyl as it compares to the edge of the laminate, and just trying to get it as square and as straight as possible without it going too far offline. And you can see I'm just rolling the actual roller itself forward. This particular laminate, because the way it's rolled, it likes to fold down into the roller, so I just got to lift it up a little bit. But you can see I'm just rolling here. I could be over there, you know, doing the wheel, but I kind of get in the way of the camera. So I do try to grab this edge and just make sure it stays down. I don't want it to just inadvertently fall down on top of the print before I'm ready for it to. And just pull out. So that's laminated now. But there is, let me pull this close to the camera. This part here is just the laminate. That's that kind of 1.5 inch extra that was on that leading edge. So I need to trim this off and then get rid of, this is the laminate backing. This is the vinyl backing here. Just use retractable, follow along the edge. Alright, so this is the backing from the laminate. And I just got to fold this stuff down just a little bit. I've got some boxes up under my table here, and I just drop it in this trash. So this now is ready to go back into the printer to cut. Alright, yeah, so we're back over here at the printer now. This is just sitting on here at the moment. I wanted to point out two things. One, obviously, like I was mentioning, this rectangle is your front corner, front right corner actually, as opposed, you know, in reference to the printer. What I'm going to end up doing is loading this in, basically kind of centering it in between, obviously, the rollers as I can, as it had printed. But a key thing, ultimately, whenever we end up lining this up to cut, is that this circle, you want it basically where your cutting strip is in terms of that depth. You want it in line with that of where that cutting strip is going to be, because that's where the sensor up under the cutting head is going to read those registration marks. So I wanted to point that out before I actually got this loaded in here, and we'll go ahead and do exactly that. Try to center as best I can. And I line up this front edge of the print with this front edge, or a front edge here, on the printer. I'm gonna try to get it just as straight and centered as possible. There is obviously some variance, and it can be off just a little bit, but I try to do the best I can, obviously. Give it a minute to read the width, and I'm going to do a test cut. Should always test cut your vinyl. And if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you don't have maybe you don't have an idea of what force is needed to do the test cut. Usually if I'm just doing 3 mil or so vinyl, usually it's around 45 to 55 or so gram force on my machine. So I'm going to use the front panel here. Pan this over for a minute. I'm feeding this all the way in as far as I can. I'm going to base point that, and I'm going to do a test cut. This is currently at 50 grams force. I know it's going to need more than that. I'm going to go up to about, I think I've been on this, let's try 100. I don't think that's going to be enough. I'll try it. Grab my weeding tool, I've got up here. I actually did cut. Got the circle there, got the square. But I have no sort of indication. I'm looking at reflection here, and it's kind of obviously really difficult to show on camera. I'm going to try to add maybe 10 to that. Basically what I'm looking for is a little bit of an indentation on the backing of the paper. Not so much that it actually cuts through, but I want to see it just a little bit. That's kind of where I'm happy at. And just starting to get that. So that was 110, so I'm going to set in VersaWorks to 115 actually. So remember that. I'm going to feed this back in again to where the circle, that registration mark is lined up with that cutting strip, and I'm going to base point. I don't know if you actually have to base point, but I do it just out of habit, and it's good to go there. So I'll see you back over at VersaWorks for a moment, and then we'll get to cutting. All right, so back here over in VersaWorks, I'm going to open this print job back up, as I just mentioned over there. So now I don't have to change anything in any of these panels except for this cut controls. Oh, yeah. Confused myself there for a moment. So now I want to go to cut only, because I've done the printing. I mentioned 115 gram force, and everything else is good to go. You don't change anything else. Now you see here, now that it's cut only, the design is gone because it's already been printed, obviously, and it's just going to cut. You don't want to mess with anything else. You can technically change any of the the page space here. I've done that, and when I've kind of ganged up a couple of prints together. But yeah, I won't try to confuse anything here, and I'll basically just leave everything else alone. You want to leave the crop marks on. Really, the only thing you want to do is change this to cut only, and change the cutting force here. One thing you do not want to do is get media width in between printing and cutting. We know what the width is. It was the same width from when you cut prior or printed prior, so you don't want to do that. The only thing I want to do is change this to cut only and set my force accordingly. And basically you hit print. It's weird that it says print. It could just go to cut here, obviously, but I'm going to go ahead and hop over to the other camera again, and then I'll hit the print button here momentarily. Alright, so I've just hit print, obviously, on VersaWorks. As you can see, it's now going over and trying to read those registration marks. It's just read the first one, that front right. And now it's obviously sliding over. It's going to hit this front left one. Feed out, and then it'll hit the back ones. And then once it's read all four, it'll begin the cut process. Hey guys, so back over here at the table, just finished cutting and just figured I'd show real quick. Ultimately, the main parts of the video, the important stuff is been done. Hopefully you guys understand everything, but I just wanted to show how to cut these down real quick and actually prove in fact that they were cut and cut well. So what I do with these in terms of the sheets, again, I just kind of use my cutter here, align with the edges that I showed earlier on the VersaWorks side in terms of these rectangle lines for the sheets. It makes it really easy to sit here and do this really quickly to trim these out and have them in uniform sizes as well. So just a moment. Have these ready to go. That one. This one just has the little space in between here. Set this aside. And I do have to take a little bit of time on this because sometimes some of these stickers are so small. Some of the times that the edges of certain ones may try to peel up just a little bit. And so I just try to keep an eye on them rather than going crazy with just ripping away at it. But usually relatively easy to weed out. Just like your print and cut ones, these obviously just have laminate on top as well. So, nice and easy. Hope that makes sense to you guys. And if you got any questions, let me know. You guys take care, and we'll see you again soon.